Our story begins in the interior of an old-fashioned clothing shop. It seems like it is closed up for the night, as there is no movement on stage, and very little light to be seen. Soon, though, we can see a light flicker on and off a few times, then stay on for good. On the back wall of the stage, we see projected moths making their way into the shop, coming in through various cracks and holes in the walls and ceiling. These moths begin to gather, talk, laugh, and most of all, eat various pieces of clothing within the shop. Soon, a boy moth pokes his head onto the stage, an actual performer, not a projected image. He is dressed in rags but still maintains a clownish, bright, spunky personality. This is Bean. He tumbles onto the stage with a giggle and laugh, and looks about for anything to munch on. Soon, he spots a patch of cloth. Licking his lips, he grabs the cloth and begins to chow down on it. He munches happily to himself as he does.
Mmm, mmm. Cotton blends do sure hit the spot.
Bean looks around for any other scraps of cloth or clothing. He soon spots a discarded piece of sweater. He grins and rubs his stomach, reaching for the scrap, when suddenly a second moth, this one a girl moth, flutters onto the stage. This is Nia. She is shy, sweet, and very pretty. She smooths out her plain, somewhat tattered dress and primps her hair a bit as Bean's eyes go to her. He soon smiles a smitten, love-struck smile. It is obvious that Bean knows who Nia is and is very much crushing on her.
Ooh, gosh, Nia, the most beautiful girl moth I've ever laid eyes on. Oh, she's all alone. None of the other fellows are around. This could be my chance. Yoo-hoo! Nia, over here.
Oh, Bean! Hello!
Bean smiles, approaches Nia, and gives her a small, polite bow.
Nia, you look as pretty as ever.
Bean smiles and kisses Nia's hand gently once.
Enchanté, my lady.
Such a gentle moth. I simply love politeness in a boy.
Nia runs a hand across Bean's cheek briefly, then smiles and walks past him. Bean starts to smittenly stammer.
Humana, humana. She touched my cheek. I'll never wash this part of my face again.
He shakes his head of smitten cobwebs as he gazes at Nia nibbling on a scrap of cloth. Bean slowly puts a hand to his chin, then his eyes light up. He has an idea.
Aha!
Bean grins, struts over to Nia, and slowly, gently taps her on the shoulder.
Nia, may I be so bold as to ask if you'd like to dine with me? Just the two of us, in this clothing shop. What do you say?
I'd be delighted to.
Hot dog! I mean, great. Shall we?
Yes, we shall.
The two link hands and head off stage briefly. Blackout and quick scene change. Soon, we are near a group of large hats. Bean and Nia come back on stage, hand in hand. Nia breaks off to gaze at the hats in awe as Bean plucks a feather off of one of the hats and eats it, almost like a shish kebab. He looks to Nia, grins, and plucks a second feather, this one a bigger one, and struts over to Nia and taps her on the shoulder again.
My lady, for you.
He holds the feather out to Nia.
Why, thank you, kind sir.
Nia moves to grab the feather, but Bean pulls it back, then wags his finger no. He has a sly, mischievous look on his face as he does this.
Ah, ah, ah. first, you need to do a little something for me.
Nia raises a confused brow as Bean grins, then slowly taps his cheek a few times. He grins and slowly moves his cheek towards Nia.
Ooh, I see. Well, goodness, why not? There's no harm in a kiss on the cheek. Deal.
Nia puckers her lips out and slowly leans in to kiss Bean on the cheek. However, Bean, grinning slyly, soon turns his face and puckers his lips out as well, intending to steal a kiss on the lips. Nia pumps the brakes at the last moment, though, as her lips are just inches from his. She gasps and backs away a step or two.
What?
Rats! I was this close.
Nia frowns and begins to swat at Bean's arm and shoulder a few times. She's annoyed, but there's a hint of flirty playfulness to her annoyance.
Oh, you prankster! You naughty, naughty thing! I'm not that kind of moth. How fresh can someone be,
Oh, come now, Nia, my darling, my precious, my sweet, sweet moth.
Bean takes Nia's hand and kisses it gently twice.
You know I adore you. You're the most beautiful moth I've ever laid eyes on.
Bean kisses her hand twice more as Nia can't help but, proudly, primp her hair and smile with her free hand.
Well, that's very sweet of you to say, Bean. Thank you. I think you're awfully cute, too.
Well, if you like me and I like you, then why don't we show our mutual liking with a kiss?
Bean puckers his lips out eagerly and makes a few kissing noises at Nia. She giggles and backs away a few steps, but Bean sidles up to her again, lips still puckered out.
I'm afraid, dear Bean. My answer is no.
Bean grins and begins to playfully chase Nia around the stage, his lips still puckered for a kiss. Nia lets out a playful shriek.
Oh, you brute! You vicious brute!
Bean makes a grab at Nia, who flutters away from him, leaving Bean to kiss the air several times, his eyes closed. Soon, realizing he's kissing nothing, Bean sheepishly opens his eyes. His gaze meets Nia's, as she giggles, winks at him, and flutters off stage. Bean giggles himself and looks to the audience.
She's my kind of girl. Nia, wait up! Wait for me, my sweet!
Bean eagerly follows Nia off stage. Brief blackout and set change. The stage is now bare as Nia, laughing and giggling, rushes back on, pursued by Bean. He corners her briefly and, with a sly grin, puckers his lips out for a kiss and makes a few kissing sounds. Nia, a sly grin right back, begins to run circles around Bean. Bean attempts to keep pace with her, but she soon makes him dizzy. He stumbles about briefly and collapses to his knees. Nia puts a hand to her mouth and giggles as Bean shakes the cobwebs and stands back up. Nia, again slyly smiling, goes up to Bean.
Okay, Bean, you've worn me down. Close your eyes and pucker up. I'll give you your kiss.
Really?
Really. But no peeking. Promise?
Promise.
Bean grins and wipes his mouth with his sleeve a few times, then he eagerly closes his eyes and puckers his lips out. Nia giggles and does a shh gesture to the audience, then tiptoes off stage quickly. She sneaks back on with something behind her back. Soon, we see that what she is hiding is a bucket that she holds up to the audience. She winks at them, then places the bucket over Bean's head, giggles more, and races off. Bean, after a moment, takes the bucket away from his eyes and frowns.
Umph! She tricked me. She really is my kind of girl. She's clever, like I am. Yoo-hoo! Nia! Where'd you go? Ooh, are we gonna play hide and seek? Well, I sure can't wait to find you.
Bean laughs and races off. A few moments later, Nia peeks her head out from the opposite side of the stage. She tiptoes on until she reaches center stage, then addresses the audience.
Is he gone? Did I give him the slip? Goodness, how exhausting! Oh, don't get me wrong. Bean is a cutie pie, and I think he's an awfully sweet boy. But sometimes he can be just a tad bit overzealous, just a bit much. I wouldn't be opposed to kissing him, but right now, I'd prefer we just focus on this clothing shop and all the lovely cloth to be had to eat here, not romance. Not that I mind the attention from him. Of course, it is flattering to have a boy moth be so smitten with you, after all.
Suddenly, some romantic but ominous music begins to play softly. Along with this, quick but visible flashes of yellow and red light streak across the stage, emanating from somewhere off stage.
Huh? What's that? Gee, it's coming from over there. I wonder what it could be.
Soon, a spotlight hits the stage and a figure steps out onto it. It's a boy, looking around the age of Nia, perhaps a year older. He suavely, smoothly struts onto the stage, adorned in a black and red suit, almost akin to a gangster. Nia does a double take as she takes a good long look at this boy.
Oh,
This boy, meanwhile, seems more confident, more poised, much more presentable looking than Bean, but he has an air of menace to him. He circles Nia slowly, almost like a spider circling a fly in a web. Nia is smitten beyond belief. Her eyes follow this boy, who finally stops before her and smirks.
Hi.
hi.
So what's your name, sweetheart?
Me? Oh,
Nia quickly primps her hair, smooths out her dress, then she slowly, silently curtsies.
I'm Nia. Nia Moth. What's your name?
Oh, it's not important. My friends call me the Flame.
He smiles and kisses her hand softly, smoothly, suavely.
And you'd like to be my friend, right?
Uh-huh.
Excellent. May I have this dance?
You may.
With that, some tango music begins to play as the flame grins and takes Nia's hand gently, twirls her twice, then pulls her into an embrace. With that, the two begin to tango around the stage.
You are so very beautiful. That is easy for me to say. I'm sure you've heard it before. But to me, you are more than beautiful. You are perfect.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more.
I've never seen one as beautiful as you. Such lovely eyes, such silky hair, such soft, pouty lips. You are perfection. Absolute perfection. No girl comes close to you in terms of beauty.
Oh, goodness. He had such a way with words.
Meanwhile, Bean pokes his head out onto the stage. He does a double take at seeing Nia and the flame tango. Soon, he frowns and tiptoes quietly further on to watch them.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. How do you like that? Huh? She dropped me like yesterday's news to dance with some other fella. Well, fine then. If that's the jerk she wants, he can have her.
Bean turns to storm off in a huff, but something is compelling him to stay. He turns back to look at the audience.
On second thought, hold on. There's something about this I don't like. I can't put my finger on it, but I think Nia's in danger. Wait a second. I think I know who this guy is. I've seen him around in this clothes shop before, and other places too. He's fire. The flame! He burns insects alive. He lures them in with his light and charm. Then he toasts them to a crisp. Oh no! I can't let him do that to Nia!
Bean hurries up to the tangoing Nia and Flame and tries to desperately get Nia's attention.
Nia, stop! Look at me, stop!
Go away, Bean. Can't you see I'm busy?
Nia, you don't understand that guy. He's the...
You heard the lady pipsqueak. Buzz off.
The Flame, without missing a beat, shoves Bean backwards with a thrust of his foot to Bean's chest. Bean stumbles and splats onto his back. After a few moments, Bean groans and stumbles back to his feet. He frowns and rolls up his sleeve, then stomps up to Nia and momentarily gets her out of the Flame's grasp.
Bean, I said go away. Go bother someone else. I told you. I'm busy dancing with my new friend.
Nia, please, listen to me. This new friend of yours is bad news. Very, very bad news. He's the...
Oh, spare me. If you ask me, you're just jealous. Well, go mope about it somewhere else.
Nia, please.
Allow me, my dear. Look, buddy, the lady here said to go away. So go away. Now that shouldn't be hard to comprehend even for a bird brain like you.
I'm not scared of you. I know the things you do to insects. I'm not gonna let you hurt Nia.
Listen, Bean, was it? I don't like to ask twice, 'cause when I ask twice, I get very annoyed. Now be a good little moth and flutter off.
No.
No, huh? You know, you really ought to calm yourself down there, sport. I think you're maybe getting a bit hot under the collar.
The Flame snaps his fingers, and suddenly we see smoke begin to rise from Bean's backside. Bean sniffs the air twice, then looks to the audience in confusion. Soon, it dawns on him where the smoke is coming from. The Flame has set his behind on fire. Bean finally manages to stop, drop, and roll and put himself out. He sighs with relief, then angrily gets up and points a finger at the Flame.
You did that on purpose!
Oh, what's wrong, buddy? You're not burning with anger, are you? Ha 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 ha.
Gosh, Bean, you must be seeing red right now. Get it, red?
Had a girl, good one.
You know what? Fine. Let him lure you in. See if I care.
Bean storms off stage angrily as Nia and the Flame laugh.
Alone at last.
Indeed we are. Now, where were we?
The Flame grins and pulls Nia back into his embrace, and they start their tango up again.
And I don't wanna wind up big party, broken hearted. So if you really love me, confess, but please don't tell me. Perhaps.
As the tango ends, the flame, with a flourish, dips Nia in his arms. Once the music stops fully, he slowly rises Nia up to him. Nia gazes, love-struck, into his eyes, as the flame gives Nia a suave, dashing smile, and raises his eyebrows up and down a few times. Nia, metaphorically melting like butter in his embrace, dizzily stares into his eyes, smiles, then very eagerly puckers her lips out for a kiss. The flame smirks and moves Nia closer to him, also puckering his lips out for a kiss. However, before their lips can touch, Nia slowly unpuckers and looks to the audience. Something seems off, and she can't quite put her finger on what it is.
What's wrong, my love?
Well, I know it's gonna sound silly, but I suddenly feel warmer.
It's probably the sparks flying between us.
No, I don't mean metaphorically. I mean for real. In fact, it's getting worse. It's starting to hurt.
Oh, now, darling, don't be silly.
Just let me go for a moment. Just one moment. That's all. So I can relax myself.
I don't think so.
Don't think so? I mean it. Let go of me.
No.
I'm warning you. If you don't let go of me this instant, I'll scream.
Come on, babe, don't get so stuck up. So bent out of shape. Come on. One kiss, just one kiss. My lips through yours. I swear it will have you burning with desire.
The flame ominously, menacingly, puckers his lips out for a kiss. Nia frees one of her hands and points a shaky finger at the flame.
Wait, that burning feeling. You! It's you! You're the one doing this to me, aren't you? No!
Nia gets out of the flame's embrace and she roughly slaps him across the face twice.
Stay away from me!
The flame rubs his cheek briefly, then he frowns and glares a hole at Nia.
That was not something a friend does to a friend. I think you need to be taught some manners.
I'll learn them away from you!
Nia goes to leave, but the flame roughly grabs her wrist.
Let go! Let go!
Tusk, tusk, tusk. It looks like you're the one getting hot and bothered now.
The flame smirks and snaps his fingers. Soon, we hear a sizzling sound, and Nia lets out a gasp of pain.
My wrist! You're burning my wrist! It hurts! Stop!
Sorry, Toots, but it's too late for that.
Nia breaks free from the flame's grasp and frantically runs around the stage, as the flame menacingly, ominously, slowly stalks her around it.
Help! Help me, someone! Help!
Go on and scream. Scream as loud as you want. By the time any of the dopey moths in here figure out what's going on, you'll be cooked to a crisp.
The flame snaps his fingers again, and a flame effect erupts briefly from his fingers. Meanwhile, just below the stage, Bean comes sulking out, an ice pack on his behind. He mopes miserably in silence until...
Help! Someone please help me! Huh? Is that Nia?
Nia lets out another scream of terror as the flame cackles and lunges at her, just barely missing her. Bean gasps at what he sees.
Oh no! It is Nia! That hothead must be trying to hurt her. I don't care what happened before. I have to help her!
Bean rushes onto the stage as the flame closes in on Nia.
You're running out of places to go, babe. Got any last words before you become barbecue?
I can't believe you put me under a spell like that. I was better off with Bean. He's not a horrible beast like you are.
I think I'll set fire to those pretty wings of yours first. Those are the most fun to watch burn.
He goes to toss fire onto Nia when Bean bounds in front of her in a protective stance.
Get away from her, you conflagration Casanova!
Bean!
You again, eh?
That's right. You stay away from her. If you want to try toasting someone, try toasting me.
You know I'm just gonna call your bluff, right? Besides, toasting 2 moths in one night will be double the fun.
The flame snaps his fingers and a fire spark effect shoots out on stage. Bean tackles Nia down to keep her safe. He ushers her away as the flame advances on Bean. Bean, thinking quick, stomps on Flame's left foot, then right foot. Flame grunts with annoyance and makes a grab at Bean's hands, but Bean wiggles loose and pokes Flame in the eyes, Three Stooges style.
Ow! You're really starting to irritate me, you little pest.
That's the idea.
He stomps on the Flame's feet once more. The Flame howls in pain.
Yow! Arg, stand still so I can burn you to a crisp.
Nia rushes at the Flame from behind and pulls at his hair, trying to get him away from Bean.
Don't you dare hurt him!
Ah! Why am I letting you do this? I'm fire, literal fire. I should burn you both to pieces with one touch.
Flame goes to grab at Nia, but Bean charges into him and the two tumble to the ground. As the two wrestle to get to their feet first, Bean looks up.
Ow! Hey, there's a bunch of moths up there near a big jug of water. Hey! Hey up there! Douse this guy! Quick! He'll burn the whole place down!
You got that right. But I'm gonna start with you little pipsqueak.
He grabs Bean's wrists and we hear a sizzling sound as Bean yells out in pain and shakily goes to his knees.
Ah! Help! It burns! But please let go!
Time to say night-night, lover boy.
Nia races onto the stage with a thimble full of water. She splashes it directly into the Flame's face as he screams in agony and begins to melt somewhat into the floor.
Leave him alone!
Ah! No! You throw water at me! You ruined me! I'll get you for this! Hello!
Look out! The jug of water's coming down! Complete blackout. We hear the sound of the jug of water splashing and Flame screams of agony that melt into nothing. We hear more crashing of items, presumably coming from the shelf above. Then, total silence. Soon, the lights fade back up. There is debris and large pieces of clothing littered around the stage. Nia and Bean are not visible for the moment. Soon, though, a hole in a big sweater that covers the stage pops open, and Bean weakly sticks his head out of it, then his arms and half of his body. He groans and finally climbs through the hole fully. He shakily gets to his feet and looks around.
Hello? Nia? Are you okay? Nia, please be okay. Please show me you're all right.
Soon, directly next to Bean, we hear muffled grunts and shouts from someone. Bean cocks his ear to listen.
Nia? Nia, are you under there?
Bean, relieved, rips a second hole in the sweater, and Nia soon flutters through the hole, panting. Both Bean and Nia are bumped and bruised, but otherwise look okay. Bean happily hugs Nia, who hugs him back just as happily.
Nia!
But Bean...
Thank goodness you're okay. You saved me back there. You were so clever, hitting him with that thimble of water.
The flame, is he gone?
Doused out. Yup, he's gone, and just in time. I thought he was going to roast this entire shop to the ground, with all of us in it. Oof, wow, this whole place is a mess now. Whoever owns this clothing shop is going to be awfully mad when they come in tomorrow morning. Gee, do you suppose we should clean up? I know we're moths, but there's nothing that says moths can't clean.
Nia smiles and puts her hands to Bean's cheeks, and he begins to trail off smittenly as his eyes lock to hers.
we, I'm just gonna be quiet now.
My hero.
Nia presses her lips to Bean's in a kiss. Bean's eyes widen in awe, then droop close. His arms and legs go limp at the kiss, and the two hold this pose as, with some ending music playing, we slowly fade to black and our story ends.